Ladies and gentlemen, I now present to you Campus Cloud, powered by Klaud.
Colleagues, good afternoon. It's a couple of minutes after 2 o'clock here in Cleveland, Ohio. I'd like to welcome what looks like to be approximately 55 odd institutions who have maybe a little bit less, maybe 50 institutions who've joined us for today's session, ranging from Virginia Community College System to we have non-higher ed attendees as well, like Lockheed Martin, but most of you are from the education, both higher ed and K-12 domain. Today's session is going to be focused on Gwynedd-Mercy University's briefing on their lessons learned and best practices with their virtual desktop initiative. And that will be led by Carl Hovrath, GMU's CIO, and Gabe Raddy, who is Director of Technology Support Services. We also have a guest presenter, Scott Fitzgerald, who is representing and works for VMware. The presentation from GMU will be followed by a presentation from VMware and Campus Cloud, which has been renamed recently to Klaud. These two individuals, which are Scott and Trinian, also goes by the name T. These two individuals will do a deeper dive into the infrastructure behind GMU's cloud-based virtual desktop service. Just as a quick backdrop, for those of you that are unfamiliar with Campus Cloud or Klaud, it is one of, if not the largest, hosting provider in the education domain. The details of Klaud will be drilled into later, but of course this is heavily centered around a VMware based cloud environment, and there are a lot of other players, including Cisco, Nimble, and others that are involved on the infrastructure side. But there are many higher ed institutions that are clients of Klaud, including Columbia University, Cornell University, Florida State, Louisiana State, Miami-Dade, and of course Gwynedd-Mercy University. These institutions are utilizing Klaud for things like desktops, but also for disaster recovery, for production ERP, public website, LMS, and other enterprise, mission-critical enterprise applications. Again, that will be drilled into in more detail by Trinian or T later on. For those of you that are in attendance, there are two special coupons for you. You have the ability to participate in this virtual desktop initiative. Klaud will provide you with $250 for 5 virtual desktops. Essentially, that's good for sticking your foot into the water or toes into the water from a testing and trial standpoint, including the setup cost if you're looking to do what GMU has done. In addition, there's a coupon for $500 if you want to do anything like cloud hosting or backup as a service or disaster recovery as a service with Klaud. With that being said, we're going to switch gears to Carl and Gabe's briefing. Again, then we're going to go to Scott from VMware, and then we're going to go to T from Klaud with Q&A at the end. And you can put your questions into this GoToMeeting console as appropriate. So just as a quick introduction, I recently had the opportunity to see Carl down in the Philly area We were there at St. Joe's. He's been working with the consortium for a long time in terms of we initially worked with him when he was at Temple, and then subsequently he shifted gears to Gwynedd-Mercy University, where he's engaged with organizations like Campus Cloud or Klaud. And by way of introduction, also just Gabe has been driving a lot of the activities around the help desk and desktop support. So you have that context in terms of where these two presenters fit. It's been a pleasure working with the GMU team on quite a number of initiatives. They're always sort of leading something or driving, you know, the early adoption in terms of, you know, given Carl's sort of leadership thought process. So at this stage, we're going to turn it over to the two of them, and if the administrative team can take presenter control or can take over the PowerPoints, that would be great. So Tief, you can have that happen. Carl, at this point, I'll turn the presentation over to you. And you guys might be on mute, so Carl, if you want to just check audio.
Peace, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you fine.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Peace. You had mentioned earlier about Klaud and using it as a backup / disaster recovery resource. And I have to say that that's how, sort of how we dipped our toe into the water of Klaud by using it as a backup resource. We had a in-house, well, actually we were using tapes and shipping them to New Jersey for the longest time, and that became expensive and not readily accessible for the data. So we then started backing it up on campus, and of course on campus isn't good if something happens to on campus. And for a long time we wanted to really back up our data remotely, and Klaud, and we started using it, was Campus Cloud, offered us an affordable way to back up the data for our core system. So our student information system, some of our very sensitive data that we need to be sure is accessible and is also protected, we have been able to do that successfully for over a year now. It's been working out very well, and there's a great level of comfort, not just with IT in that area, but with the administration, because they know that you know, their data is backed up and safe. But our more recent projects really have come out of an initiative from a technology committee that we work with, where Peace had mentioned, originally was working before this institution at Temple University. It was a rather good-sized university with 35,000 plus students, and we had a IT staff of over 200. So there was a lot to do and a lot of people to support in terms of students, faculty, and staff. And there was a lot of great projects that we worked on there too. My first work was with Campus EAI at that institution, and we were working with the portal. Since then, we've adopted a number of many other services. After coming to Gwynedd-Mercy University, there was no difference in what was needed, except there was less IT staff. And there were, yes, less student staff and faculty, but we still had to provide the exact same services that we provided at Temple at Gwynedd-Mercy University. We still needed to have email. We still needed a student information system. We still needed a website. We needed a help desk and desktop support, network services, information technology, security, and a number of other services. So the difference was that we just didn't have the staff on the larger scale that we do, you know, that we did at Temple. So getting assistance and using your resources wisely is really one of the objectives that I've had to do to make sure we could still provide a high quality of customer support and service to our students, faculty, and staff. And to kind of talk about our students as customers in a way, giving them good customer service, the expectations today are much higher than they were years ago in terms of IT support. Today, everyone is used to Zappos, Amazon, working with your internet service provider, and calling in for telephone support, chatting online, and getting your issues resolved as quickly as possible. And there are companies that really stand out in terms of service, like Zappos, has really prided themselves on providing excellent customer support, responsive customer support. So these customers of these businesses are also customers of the university and the college environment and higher education. They're coming to our institution with the same expectations of customer service and support. And so it's really incumbent on us to really try to provide that as much as possible. Now that's a little bit difficult sometimes when you have limited resources, as we all do. It doesn't matter how big or small we are as institutions. We do have to struggle sometimes with either human resources or getting the right equipment. So what I found is that instead of having some of my staff, I can't hire more staff, let's say. So I've been able to repurpose some of the duties of the existing staff and have Campus AI handle them. Peach mentioned before we use help desk services. So for example, one of our highest ticket counts is for password changes. Why have my staff do password changes when they can be out there in the field working, helping somebody with a desktop support issue, or being on site where technical support is needed instead of in the back room changing a password. So those are the types of things Campus AI handles. In terms of our computer labs, they required a lot of hands-on maintenance. So Gabe, he'll tell you more about this, but he's got a staff of one senior computer lab manager that pretty much handles 13 labs here on main campus and a few labs on our satellite campuses. So you can imagine for one person, this is quite a workload, kind of moving around between all our satellite campuses, uploading certain software, programming, patching computers all the time, replacing parts, and changing every semester when faculty need changes to their course software. We need to go in and quickly change that up. We have fall, spring, and summer semester. Well, now that's going away. Not going away, but we're adding on top of that our accelerated and adult courses that come to our campuses, and those classes run 6-7 weeks. So we need to have the labs prepared and changed in a very short duration. And so the workload is increasing because the model of offering teaching and learning is changing, and the format in which our customers are consuming that is also changing too. So we're still stuck. We were still stuck in the 1990s model of computer lab support, meaning Gabe and his staff going into the computer lab, working on the computer labs to set them up and prep them, and then monitoring them as the students use them throughout the semester. We thought this was just not really efficient, and with having being a VMware shop and having VMware, we started exploring virtual desktop infrastructure technology. And so we thought, maybe one day everybody will be using this on campus, but maybe we could start in some of our high utilization labs. And so that's what Gabe has pretty much done, is led the project on a couple of them. We started not with Campus AI, and what a bunch of lessons we learned there over that period of time. We started in-house with existing equipment. That had limited capabilities, and we could only do so much. But it proved to us that it could be done and that we could really use this in a good way here at the university. We then moved from that to opening a new building. When we opened a new building, there was a very large name IT provider that helped us set up VDI in the building in a couple labs. That did not go well. It took way too long, and it wasn't what was advertised. We didn't get what was advertised, unfortunately. So we're still struggling with a little bit of that left, and when that contract's over, I think we'll find another option for that. We then talked with Campus EAI, who started offering these services, and we started working in our library, and now that has gone very well, much shorter startup time and setup time, and much more actually responsive service that we're getting from the cloud. The idea is that students can get to this computer lab anywhere. They're not relegated to Keys Hall 103 anymore, meaning they don't have to go to one of our buildings and into a computer lab to use the software on a particular computer. Now we can make virtual computers that they can get to anywhere. We don't have to be relegated to room 103. We can move it to a whole nother building now and have them have class there. We can, we're very agile, in terms of our computing infrastructure. It's really where we want to get to. And working with Campus EAI allows us to kind of pursue this strategy. It's also what students expect and what faculty are starting to expect. You think students are ahead of the curve, and so are faculty. They're expecting to have these resources and get them almost anywhere. They're teaching differently. As we offer online courses shouldn't be penalized not to have computer labs. They should have computer labs too. And now we can offer that with some of our fully online programs to students who never set foot on one of our physical campuses. So that's a little bit about the strategy, where we're going, some of the issues that we've come across, and where we're going with Campus EAI. Gabe can kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is Gabe Reddy. I'm the Technology Support Service Director here at Gwynedd-Mercy University. So we have our main campus and satellite campuses, and so the goal number one was to reduce the computer labs on campus. If you ask me how many computer labs we have, it's 11 on our main campus, and we have 5 in our satellite campuses. So 3 years ago, we did this in-house, and we had a server that was not provisioned for VDI, but it was just a proof of concept. So we said, why don't we try this and see how it works? Good experience for everybody. If we like it, then we'll think about VDI. If not, then we'll find another solution. So that's how we embarked upon the VDI idea about 3 to 4 years ago. It was a good learning experience. We made a lot of mistakes. We had vendors that helped us, so we were able to have 3 of our computer labs, smaller labs, but 3 of them were on VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure. So after that, we saw what we could do with VDI. It's the idea you read more and you experiment with different things, and you can see the potential, which our online courses were coming, and the flexibility that VDI gives you compared to the fixed traditional computer labs we all know. It was great. We wanted to go on that route, and we talked to a big vendor, like a big name vendor, and we actually had 2 computer labs that took almost 4 months to set up. The experience was not that good because of the communication, a lot of communication issues, and the way the big vendors are structured, that you have to talk to 5 or 6 different people to get a resolution that would take about maybe 5 minutes to get it from Campus EAI. So the experience was just painful. It's not the know-how. They have the resources and they have the know-how, but will they allocate those resources to you when you want to set up a small, a small university with maybe we wanted to do 35 devices, VDI devices on campus. So the experience we had with the alternative vendor was not that good. So we came about, was it 3 months ago, Carl? Yeah, we talked about with Campus EAI, and in a matter of 2 weeks, we had one of our labs up and running. But what was impressive was that the response that we were getting and the knowledge transfer that we were getting from Campus EAI. All the configuration that they were doing on their end was very transparent to us. And then we found out that this is not as difficult as it seems. Or when we were going with Dell, it really looked really complex. But with Campus EAI, things were simplified, and we were able to run the lab within 2 weeks. And that gave us the confidence to pursue the VDI route even more furthermore. So that is, I think, where I would like to talk more about the relationship that the small Campus EAI understands. Campus EAI understands our environment, and they know exactly what we need. And the solution that they provide was also from end to end. They had on the cloud, on the EAI cloud, they had provisioned 2 servers for us. And they helped us to navigate that firewall issues that we had to deal with on our end, on their end. And then they were extended their services actually to the endpoint, which was one of the most problematic issues for us, were configuring endpoints. The zero client configuration was easy, but the Windows embedded devices, if you have we actually have the D90s here, that was a little problematic, but now we have the confidence that we can run VDI and we can have agile computer labs on campus. We need that agility because we are reducing the number of our computer labs on campus. We want also provision desktops, maybe specific specialized desktops, virtual desktops to some of our students and faculty, and even contemplating about the desktops that we have. We might be able to use them, the legacy hardware that we have, we might be able to reuse it with VDI, so the life cycle of hardware that we have on campus can be extended. It's just an ongoing relationship with Campus EAI, and T and his team. They were just phenomenal, and they took us through all the steps. And I think I feel, as a leading person on this project, I feel confident now than I used to be like 6 or 7 months ago.
Awesome, and I think maybe Carl and Gabe, if you can shed a little bit of light on, on what kind of sort of software or what, it sounds like you're using them to virtualize the labs in terms of the use case, or how this VDI is being used in the education or higher ed context. What kind of software are you extending out to your students? Are there differences between the labs or these sort of images, or if you can shed a little bit of light as to what the sort of existing software is, or what your sort of game plan or intended offering is, that would be great.
Yeah, right now what we're using, this limited usage, is just run our library So they use web browsers. You have your Firefox and Chrome and Internet Explorer, Microsoft Office package. We have cloud-based research resources that the library use. So the usage is not that extensive at this point, but we plan to go and to publish maybe some applications in the future.
We have our new finance lab in the new building.
Right.
That's going to be an application.
Yeah, that is going to be.
We have nursing labs in nursing, right, that have a lot of proprietary software.
Yeah. But right now we're not doing any of that, but we plan to run all those labs with VDI. Mm-hmm. So the ease of setting up a virtual desktop and pushing it to a faculty member or a staff or a group of students is just very appealing, because that is, and then they can use their own devices too. You know, whatever device that they have, the desktop is provided, so they can pull that desktop from wherever they are sitting. So that is, I think, one of the main important aspects. Maybe computer labs, maybe some faculty need computer labs in the future, so we can have 10 or 20 desktops and assign them as a computer lab, a virtual computer lab, so they can run tests or they can run applications or programming in the near future. So those are the kind of things that we're hoping to embark upon.
Right, Gabe, can you talk a little bit, if you remember when we were in Cleveland, we talked a little bit about, sort of the idea of what kind of machine, or, there is a web console or a client console. Can you maybe give a little bit of a user experience view as to how you see people connecting into this service, either from campus or off campus?
Yeah, we have, we bought those P20s and P25 zero clients, and they work really well. The zero clients are great with VDI, and if you have a VDI infrastructure. Where you run into problems is when you have a Windows embedded machine like the D90s, because you have a thin client installed on the VDI. So you have to configure it in a way where it would go into a chaos mode, and that's what you want. You don't want your students to go through, navigate through screens to get into the VDI, and then eventually into their desktop. You want to configure the endpoint so it would look like a zero client at a time, but also you want to use the resource that come with the Windows embedded. So say if VDI is not available for some reason, if the server is out, you still should be able to use the web browser through the Windows embedded client. So at least they can do web browsing and a few things that are on the cloud, right? So you run into configuring the Windows embedded into making it a zero client, but at the same time you want to use the strength of a Windows embedded client. So we run into configuring those endpoints to make them or into taking them into appliance mode or a chaos mode.
Okay, I think that was an important unknown, right? When this
that was very unknown.
Figured out or discussed. The other big item that maybe I think so that's an important lesson learned or best practice, or at least how you're skinning the cat. In terms of the device within the labs, and I'm assuming the end user can use any machine remotely, right? Meaning like whatever their BYOD or device is when they're off campus. Is that correct?
Yeah. Another issue also was the thumb drives, like flash drives. Any flash drive bigger than 4 gig was just very difficult to enumerate. it would take 15 to 20 minutes for some of them to show up, or to enumerate or to show the thumb drive when you plug it in. So we don't have that problem with now. I don't know if we were running on vSphere 5 Enterprise. That's what we're using. So now we are on the latest 5.5, I think, with Campus AI. So we don't seem to experience that problem. But that was also a big unknown. Another unknown was print servers on campus. We have a print server infrastructure. We actually know how many times students print, right? We have an accounting and auditing software. So to integrate that, to integrate that into VDI was another unknown issue. Also, a lot of time is spent on the networking side with firewalls. So if you wanna your network drives to appear when you log into your AD infrastructure, you use username and password, and we have scripts that run to provision network drives, assign network drives to different people depending on their login. So those were not showing up. So that has to be also configured. So there is a lot of work to be done on the firewall, and both on Campus AI and our end. Of course, you have to spend time configuring the VPN tunnel. That's what is needed. Time zones, with that vendor that we had, some of the technicians were overseas, so we were not able to contact them. So you ask a question and you wait 24 hours to get a response. So if you have people on the same or in US-based time zones, I think things would go smoother instead of waiting 24 hours to ask a question and get a response via email. Meetings were difficult to have because they could be at midnight and you're here at 1 p.m. So that was another complication.
Gabe, I just want to go back. Flash drive issue you sorted out, right? Meaning, so that was solved maybe due to the vSphere change behind the scenes, right?
I don't seem to have it now. We could use an 8 gig flash drive without a problem with the proof of concept that we have right now.
Okay, and then the print servers, does those get sorted out, or that's still something to tackle?
So, you see, print servers, I think, no, they are sorted out now, but we were having issues with print servers because of communication. You know, we had to wait for hours and hours to get a response to our questions. So the whole communication, you need somebody on the same page. You need people to go back and forth. But T was great. You know, he would just, we ask him a question, he would respond to it within an hour.
Okay, and then can you, and then you said there's, and I wanted to maybe drill into this a little bit. So you're got a tunnel in place. I'm assuming that's because you're authenticating against your AD for login. Is that correct?
Right. Right.
Okay, so it's integrated into your identity context. Is that correct? Okay.
We have, actually we have one of our AD servers there. Mm-hmm. So on the cloud.
Okay, you put an AD in the cloud.
Yeah, we need to put that for a disaster recovery issue so we can use it at a later date too.
Okay.
So we have a server on the cloud.
Okay, so you have a AD server that is also in Campus Cloud or Cloud, right?
That's right.
And is your primary bind against the local AD or the AD in the cloud?
No, local AD. Yeah, we're binding against our local ADs.
Okay, got it. So the one in the cloud is just your like DR AD. That's right. Okay, and then you sorted out this issue related to the network drives, or that's still being sorted out?
No problem with network drives now.
Okay. All right, yeah, these are really important issues, right, in terms of theory versus really in production.
They are very important, and you need to address them right away you just if you have someone has a file on a network drive and you can't get to it, that's an emergency around here.
Gotcha. And then the other item, I think the elephant in the room is the big item that we were discussing, when this was an idea for GMU was latency. So how is the performance from a usability standpoint on virtual desktops coming from the cloud versus from the local area network?
It's very responsive, but at the same time, we're not running AutoCAD or high resolution videos on our VDI environment.
Okay.
But what we see is very impressive.
Okay, and there's no special networking we have like MPLS connectivity. It's straight over the public internet, right?
No.
Right. So I think the lesson learned there is make sure that the applications on the desktops are thought through from a performance or tested from a performance standpoint, but it sounds like the ones that you have are working fine, which was a big unknown in terms of whether this was going to be usable or useful or not, right?
Right.
Very cool. Yeah, those are some big items, unknown items in terms of running this out of the cloud. Can you just go back and say, is there a benefit of running it out of the cloud versus just having done this on your own on-prem, or because I think you were in the on-prem context?
Can I just speak to that real quick, Pish? Just in terms of, at least from my perspective, it's a costly endeavor to buy the equipment and maintain the equipment on-prem. We tried doing that with our experiment, and the cost for the hardware, the maintenance contract, the software contracts that we would have to support in-house, not to mention the in-house expertise that we would need to have here. We would need a full-time person just to manage what we are planning to do. We just couldn't afford that. So I think in terms of, and the deal here is that with Campus EAI, it's scalable. So if you want 10 or 100, you can buy what suits your needs. So it's really turned out to be a no-brainer from a cost standpoint, from a resource allocation standpoint, for me anyway, to go this way.
Right.
If you want a 10 or a 20 to start with a smaller lab environment, you just would never invest in the infrastructure to provide that to your community. It just wouldn't make sense. Doing it this way with the cloud makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great in terms of almost like, why does everybody have to reinvent the infrastructure if they only need a slice of what might be required to build and maintain it? Is sort of what I'm hearing, right, Carl?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. I think the other area is there any change in how you're doing any of the licensing or any desktop software licensing, or you're keeping everything pretty much the way you already had it licensed?
Yeah, we do our licensing through the consortium, the ACAP, and nothing has changed. We get our client license and the server license that way. Mm-hmm. So it isn't any significant cost or disruption in that regard.
Got it.
So
I just want to point out something because we get a little bit of sort of nomenclature confusion. GMU utilizes Campus EAI Consortium as a prime contractor, where the subcontractor is Campus Cloud or Cloud. You don't have to work with Campus EAI Consortium. You could work directly with Campus Cloud / Cloud. It doesn't matter. The pricing is the same, but all of Campus EAI Consortium members have a master contract with Cloud or Campus Cloud. Campus Cloud or Cloud is also in the state purchasing WICHI, MEC, and CEREB agreements. That covers every single state in the United States. except for New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, just as a heads up for those who are not as familiar with these terms in terms of who is the consortium versus cloud or campus cloud. I want to pause. Carl, Gabe, anything more you want to add at this phase before we kick it over to Scott and T?
Just that, kind of picking up on what you were talking about, why reinvent the wheel. We really looked at, I've looked at everything in IT over the years and asked that exact question. Why would we do that? And a good example is email. If we want to equate these services to email, we had one Exchange box here at the university when I came. We had one sysadmin whose 1/10 of his time was to administrate this Exchange box and deal with Outlook email issues, among the other many things that he had to do. It was a single point of failure, this Exchange box. And we know how much everyone relies on email. So I just was waiting for the day when that aging email box was just going to crash and burn. It didn't make any sense to reinvest in another single point of failure environment and tax our already limited resources. So we went with Gmail at the time. We were looking at Microsoft Live. It wasn't that mature yet, unfortunately, as much as Gmail was. So we went with that because they do email better than we can. We don't have the in-house expertise. They've got the mail servers. They've got the infrastructure. We just use the product and use it with our customers who are happy with it. I'm sleeping better at night knowing that the email is taken care of. Same thing with VDI. If I had the infrastructure in-house, again, it would be a single point of failure in our data center. It would require significant resources to upkeep. So in terms of wisely using your resources, I think this is a good way to get cost-effective resources, scale to what you need, and you can spend your time with customer-facing issues that is more and more important every day, the customer service aspect. And that's what I think is a positive about using service like Cloud.
Awesome, Carl and Gabe. We're going to shift gears to Scott Fitzgerald from VMware and to Trinian Ahuja, Director of Cloud, in terms of doing a deeper dive into the infrastructure behind GMU's virtual desktops. Scott, I'm going to pass the session at this point over to you. For you and T, we've got about 15 minutes, 12 to 15 minutes. Just keep sort of that clock in mind. Scott, over to you.
I will definitely do that. So you have visibility on my screen?
Yep, you're live.
Got it. Okay, so in general, and the intent here from VMware's perspective is to deliver a brief view and history of the breadth of VMware's involvement regarding the development of the DAS offering, as well as continuing support of not only the underlying technology, but the partner networks that have been developed to support it, one of which is Campus AI. While I can't speak to the prior vendor experience with the big name, and I wouldn't, even if I knew, I can say that it's not an uncommon thing, as we all know, dealing with larger companies in the tech world, that this is going to be an experience. Knowing this, it's critical to develop a channel partner network that can support the end customer in an effective and timely fashion. Obviously, I like hearing the feedback that I'm hearing about Campus AI, as they're one of the partners for VMware. So I'm going to cruise through some of this fairly quickly because we do have some limited time, but almost half of the workers making use of information in business today, some of these things we've already touched on from the case scenario that we just heard, which is you've got people out there that are calling for this. It's not even a matter of asking for it. They're expecting it and they're demanding it. You got 50% of enterprise applications no longer run on Windows, most of them moving to the cloud. You've got over 250 million end users that are accessing Dropbox. So these are great examples of much the same thing that we're talking about. The role of IT end users are changing, and this is what's driving the IT complexity, the security challenges, and driving the cost up for our customers. Ultimately, it's about driving up, driving a new demand for a new approach, or developing a new approach to go ahead and address all these. Oh, bear with me a minute. So the big picture thing for VMware is that VMware, we're embracing these changes. We believe users should have one place to securely access all the applications, files, social tools, and online social services they need from any device they choose everywhere. If we look at our mission, it's about enabling the software-defined workspace and allowing people to work at the speed of life. This is a great term. It's about the end users and how they want to work, or how they want to work, excuse me, whether they're in a coffee shop, at home, on the road, in an office, accessing their applications and data that they need when they need it, across everything from laptop to desktop to even in their car. It's also a great term because it signals that customers can take advantage of the full capabilities up and down the stack that VMware brings to bear around the software-defined data center and extend these capabilities out to the end users through the workspace. This is the basis of the partnership we develop with companies like Campus AI, developing partnerships, managed service providers that provide additional services on the core infrastructure of VMware. The indication is, again, as I said, the students and faculty are not just asking for these advances, they're expecting them, they demand them when they come into play, which just reaffirms everything I've heard out there in the first place. This is basically that, to enable the software-defined workspace, VMware's complete and robust portfolio of products, as many of you know already as IT professionals, extending from our desktop to the workspace, products like View, Mirage, Fusion, ThinApp, and Workstation, to our enterprise mobility management solutions from AirWatch, like mobile device management, mobile content management, mobile application management. Our workspace services span across the desktop and mobile management products and include identity management products, just the whole breadth of everything you folks all know. Many of the users have defined where virtual desktops can be assistants in your own organizations already. You really don't need us to tell you. You're sitting here and listening to this because you're listening to a scenario in which it's already been deployed. Many of you have probably stood up VDI in your own organizations. This is more about, so you know the agility, flexibility that goes with it. It's just that now we're looking at being able to access them from anywhere on the cloud basis. And I'm going to hit on this pretty quick. It's basically the same thing again that we were hearing, and I love the fact there's a lot of synergy in what I'm hearing. I haven't spoken to anybody on these previously. We were hearing this, the old VDI, the traditional VDI, CapEx model, greater flexibility and desktop options locally in some cases. But it's, there are some advantages, but it's costly. And for smaller organizations, it doesn't become that cost effective. When you're cloud hosted, got the advantages there. Traditionally this option is fine, but with the advances in virtualization, the increased and available bandwidth, connectivity, the expansion across of access to so many devices, purchasing the service versus purchasing infrastructure and providing resources to support it have become a low-risk proposition with cost advantages. So it's so moving that CapEx model to OpEx has been a primary consideration for a lot of the cloud adoption that we're seeing nowadays. And really, I'm just going to hit, we were saying that we were going to talk deeper dive on the infrastructure, but there really isn't that much time for that. This is, again, more of that higher level view. Really, to sum this up, we're looking down to the reality of that finance plays a major role in all decisions. This is where the predictability of costs has been well received. As it notes here, the lack of needing to purchase infrastructure and additional resources to support it, combined with the monthly cost that doesn't have to be amortized through some complex financial calculation, and the flexibility to adapt the level of your services to the needs of your organization. And these have all provided a cost benefit to countless organizations, and again, this feeds the growth in the cloud-based scenarios that we're seeing for VDI. That's pretty much all I got for you. I know we've got, like I said, a limited amount of time. If anybody has any further questions, go ahead and feel free to route them through Campus AI, and I'll be more than happy to go ahead and discuss more through them.
Scott, that's awesome. T, I'm going to for the second segment of this, if I can kick it over to you, and you could tell us a little bit about the Campus Cloud or cloud side of it, that would be great. T, we're going to do an audio check on you. We're not getting audio. We see your screen, but no audio still.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. You're live.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Scott and Fish, running through, and thanks, Gwynedd-Mercy team, for explaining how our journey been for virtual desktops. We're a little bit out of time, so I'm just going to run briefly through our Campus Cloud infrastructure and what we provide as a dedicated hosting provider or public cloud, private cloud. We're entirely VMware shop, so our entire infrastructure runs on VMware only. And basically, we started doing this desktop as service as we had demand from the customers, where we can, go through and deploy the solutions for them. We have a hosted environment with multiple data centers where we provide 99.9% availability on our virtual desktop environment, and we also provide a variety of hosted services along with managed services where you're looking to migrate from on-site to off-site location, where you want to have DR services, backup as service, or you want to have multiple application hosted. So example of hosting applications is we host SQL Server, Active Directory, MySQL, Exchange servers. We also host Forefront Identity Manager, Oracle applications, ERP systems. And we have a variety of application hosting monitoring locations where we monitor through our 24/7 365 NOC, who keeps a tab on all the alerts we get and raise the tickets and alert the appropriate technical resources depending on the issue and priority we get. We monitor the entire services we run globally through entire 20 locations across the world, and we prioritize the monitoring locations depending on where the applications are hosted or servers are located. For our cloud-hosted Horizon View as a VMware product, we provide managed infrastructure. We can also provide dedicated infrastructure where we combine Active Directory, integrate with your file servers, print servers. We have our 99.9% enterprise-grade SLA on our hosted virtual desktops, and it comes as a bundle with our 24/7 NOC plus technical resource support. So if you need something to be changed urgently on the image side, you raise a ticket or give us a call and we'll do it as soon as possible. With our SLA of response is 15 minutes for a priority one issue, and resolution time is under 60 minutes. This is a kind of example of a costing where standard costing versus advanced costing. If some people are doing VDI on-site, there's a huge CapEx, but when it comes to cloud hosted, forget about CapEx, but even OpEx is not as high as there's a misconception in the with customers. So our VDI desktop starts from $35, where you have one CPU, 4 GB memory, 30 GB of storage, and that can be accessed through Horizon View clients or a browser or through Zero clients. So this is kind of a pricing structure we have, and which can also be customized depending on if you have high-end applications like Photoshop, AutoCAD running. We can provide you more compute power. We can adjust the pricing. We can also provide you Microsoft licensing bundled with this, because we are a service provider license agreement holder for Microsoft. And because that, Scott, as I was going through the webinar, there were a few questions arose. We're getting to the licensing part. How Microsoft licensing will work through the VMware or VDI. So do you have something to add to there apart from using volume license keys and have for compliant purposes?
I'm sorry, what are you asking?
I had a few questions from attendees where they were saying that how Microsoft licensing or OS licensing will work. And the answers are, if you have volume license keys or you have licenses which are covered for compliance purpose, then we're good. And we can also provide them hosting OS licensing, so they're covered from that perspective as well. Do you want to add something to it?
You know, I don't. I would say that if there's anything specific that I would need to address, we usually don't, don't deal with other companies' licensing practices. But I'm not sure if that's a question for us or about Microsoft.
Okay.
If there's something specific, probably best to take it offline and address that directly. I'd be happy to go ahead and hunt that down.
Okay. So here is an example of virtual desktops where we provide you software, we provide you facilities, hardware, and 24/7 support. And in addition to that, we can also provide you management devices like Zero clients, Thin clients, or Windows embedded. We can also provide you OS licensing, being a Microsoft partner, where end customer can also bring their own devices. They can have Zero clients procured by themselves. They can have their applications. And all you have to provide us is your image which you want us to deploy. Now, we can have, one user can have multiple image or multiple access to desktop. For example, a IT administrator may need IT applications, but also can access a student desktop. But where a student can only access student desktop. So we can restrict that through the entitlements of VMware Horizon, and we can restrict and control the entire infrastructure based on which user should be getting which desktop. So that's a nice feature where VMware has provided under their product, and then it can be accessed through branch office, it can be accessed through your mobile desktops, Android, you have Apple iOS, and you can also have remote desktop services accessing it around the world, anywhere, and it doesn't matter whether your desktops, physical desktops or Zero clients are available, you can still access through your mobile devices or through your own devices. That's one of the neat features where VDI excel, because it's not depending on the hardware or desktop sitting at your own location or the customer's location. And again, hosted Horizon DaaS is, end user experience is adaptive, simple deployment, predictable cost, where you have no capex, and then it's secure, controlled by all the aspects of networking, physical security, and private dedicated hardware. And then you have flexibility on top, which is if you want us to provision 20 desktops in one.
And Gabe, we appreciate the time that you took out of your schedule to share your experiences on this initiative with colleagues, both higher ed, K-12, and commercial or corporate that have joined today's session. Clearly, there's a huge interest, it seems, in VDI coming out of the cloud. Thank you, Carl and Gabe.
Well, thank you, Peach.
Great, and I think also from the Scott and Trinian perspective, we appreciate your time as well. Obviously this is a teamwork and a lot of pieces moving, but we appreciate your support, Scott, and Trinian. We appreciate your briefing on the infrastructure behind GMU's initiative. Thank you to both of you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
And lastly, I'd like to thank the approximately 50 institutions who joined today's session. We hope that you found the information to be informative. The coupons are still relevant. Get a hold of the person who invited you to this iSeminar, or get a hold of Trinian directly on next steps. So really the key is not buying stuff, right? That's important to figure out pricing, but first really what's the context in terms of how is VDI or the virtual labs relevant? What kind of labs do you have? What is the compute? That's really important in terms of architecting what needs to be done first. And then the costing is simple. It's really just applying a formula that's already essentially pre-negotiated for your state to that scope. So really the first thing to do is likely get on one of these sessions, sort of technical architecture sessions with Trinian and his team, that would be our recommendation. And again, leverage these coupons to sort of get in and test and try before you jump in with 2 feet. Those would be our key recommendations, and keep an eye on the licensing bits as well as you move into production. Again, we're going to bring the session to a wrap. Have a great rest of the day, everyone, and we're going to continue the session for a brief Q&A, but everyone else who needs to roll can roll for the 3 o'clock wrap. T, can you now open up the lines just for a second to see if we have any live questions that anyone wants to ask before we... Okay, I think the lines may be unmuted. Does anybody have any sort of key burning questions that you want to get in before we shut this thing down? Everyone good? T, are there any questions that you didn't get to as it relates to OS licensing or licensing, or you're good?
No, Pish, I'm good. I've answered most of the questions that have been raised.
Okay, great.
By
We're going to shut this thing down at this point. Again, thank you to everyone. This is Campus Cloud, or Cloud, in Cleveland, Ohio, signing off now. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.